In Africa, 2017 will be remembered as a year of some of the most important political transitions on the continent. And some of these transitions were inadvertent, essentially catching the leaders off guard, like in Zimbabwe. But none of these political changes was as dramatic or monumental like the one in the Gambia. Surrounded by Senegal, except for a 60-kilometer Atlantic Ocean front, the Gambia is one of the smallest countries in the world. It is also one of the most densely populated countries in Africa, with a population of 1.9 million people. And for many years, those were not the kind of statistics that drew interest in the Gambia. It was usually due to its former dictator, Yahya Jammeh, an eccentric leader who took over power in a bloodless coup d'etat in July 1994. And for 22 years, Jammeh ruled over his tiny country with an iron fist. He often made news for his outlandish antics, like the claim to have a cure for HIV/AIDS, or that he would rule the Gambia for 1 billion years. Jammeh was forced out of power last year after first conceding defeat in a presidential election, then reversing his concession, ultimately being forced out due to pressure from ECOWAS. And for a president who presided over a country where a third of its population lived under the UN poverty line, Jammeh was estimated to be worth over $1 billion. He was one of the wealthiest leaders in the world. And with that kind of wealth, Jammeh lived a lavish lifestyle, owning expensive property in cities around the world, including this one, located in one of the most affluent neighborhoods in the Washington, D.C. suburbs of Potomac. The house has a market value of over $3.5 million. But this is one of such properties, and since his departure from power, there have been efforts to find more property like this, and some of those efforts include a commission instituted by current President Barrow. They want to repatriate the wealth to help support the country's ailing economy. That mission is shared by Gambia's civil society, including Sene Marena, a young reporter from the Gambia. After a stint in exile, Marena returned to Gambia in early 2017. He made it part of his mission to find and report on Jammeh's numerous properties. The trip has brought him here at this mansion in Potomac, Maryland.
Efforts are currently underway to ensure that all the overseas assets are also, freeze, like the ones they did in Banjul.
So they're working with the Justice Department.
Yeah, the Justice Department here. But currently, other assets, and with some of his associates, they are already on the blacklist of the U.S.
Like travel ban?
Their assets overseas in the U.S. have been frozen, but excluding this one. So this is, according to Sona, in fact, this is one of the massive investments he have overseas.
In America.
Yeah. If this, a mansion of 3.5 million.
This can build a hospital.
Yeah, I'm telling
this
you.
Can build a hospital.
Because at the Gambia at the moment we have a problem with our health sector. Yeah. No drugs. Infrastructure is down. Jammeh could have invested a lot in those areas, but unfortunately he lives in a very lavish and flamboyant lifestyle. So now getting those monies back is another issue. Because I know when we lay our hand on this one, we'll be able to send many kids to school in the Gambia, provided that the new government did not also mess up.
It is no coincidence that this property sits next to another wealthy African despot, Equatorial Guinea's Teodoro Obiang. Last July, President Barrow formed a commission to investigate Jammeh's assets. His government has so far seized over $50 million of these assets, including 130 properties and bank accounts linked to him. Human rights groups say that under his rule, thousands of people, including political and social activists, were killed and others jailed for expressing diverging political views. Journalists like Sene Marena were constantly harassed, jailed, and some killed for merely writing stories that the regime considered unflattering.
I started journalism in early 2007, coming to 8, immediately after I finished high school. And then, working as a young journalist then in, a dictatorial country like the Gambia with a former President Yahya Jammeh, who was a brutal dictator, wasn't easy at all. But because I have passion and I believe to speak for the voiceless and also to speak for the disadvantaged and underprivileged, I was aware of the risk and I ventured into journalism. Practicing under him, as I said, was was very hard. But at the end of the day, I coped with it to an extent. I had to flee into exile in Dakar. Jammeh is a guy who does not appreciate the media. He does not want anyone to criticize him. He's a guy who always wants the media to sing his praises for him. So I say no to that. I was an independent journalist. So I was covering the oppositions, I was covering the minorities, and I was also exposing the human rights violations that were taking place under his watch. So based on this, he wasn't happy with me, he wasn't happy with my institution, and then I was arrested. But well before I was arrested, I was intimidated on several occasions by, forces loyal to him. I started having issues with the government way back in 2010. One among them was while covering the treason trial of the former Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Lantombo Tamba, and 8 others. These were top officials of the Gambia Armed Forces. They were accused by the former president of attempting to overthrow him, illegally, and they were arrested. So I was tasked by my news organization called the Point newspaper to cover the proceedings. And while covering the proceeding, there were a lot of issues that came up during the trial. And these people were not happy that the media was there to cover it, despite the fact that, trials in the Gambia, are open to the media and the public. But, because of the nature of how things were, at times media will divert from, reporting actually what happened. So, my first trouble started with them. My newspaper was closed. It's only buses, cars, They have very poor transportation system. That is what I was telling you. I came from New York. I depart New York at 11:30. Arrive in White Max at let's say 3 o'clock, and get from there to Windsor. It took me another 1 hour, and back I'm here in Washington DC. So if it is in Banjul or any other West African country, it could have taken me for 2 days. Yeah. So I think we have a lot to learn in terms of looking at the transportation system of advanced countries like the US. I think the US have one of the most advanced form of transportation in this world. Trains are running 24 hours, cars, planes, you name them.
What's the most common form of public transportation in Banjul?
In Banjul is buses. People use buses and many vans, to commute from one place to another.
What do they call them?
They call them a van. The other one is locally called Gele Gele. Gele Gele is the cheapest, but it's also the most risky.
Is it the one they call Akeke in other parts of West Africa?
Yeah. Just like you have the matatas in Kenya, and also you have you have the kalandos in Senegal. Kalandos look like Gele Gele in the Gambia.
All don't cool down, brother. Police don't go away. Army don't disappear. Them leave sorrow, tears and blood.
My institution I work with assigned me to follow the Jammeh Commission, propping the financial underworld of the ex-president Yahya Jammeh and his close associates. The commission mandate, among others, is to know the extent of Jammeh's wealth. I visited many places that Jammeh has business interests, where he built mansions, where he was conducting secret mining. So we visited his mansion in Janjanbureh. Janjanbureh is the administrative capital of Central River Region in the Gambia. So we visited a private mansion built by the former president. This mansion is costing millions of dollars, and the commission was also told how he lived a lavish life. We inspected this mansion, and no one could believe their eyes how poor a small country like the Gambia, a president can live and build a multi-million-dollar mansion while people are living under $1 a day. So during our visit, we realized that he used public funds that are generated from taxation, funds that are given to the country by our partners like Taiwan. Taiwan used to be a major donor to the Gambia. After 22 years of brutal dictatorship, life in Banjul is coming back to normal, slowly but surely. At the moment, the government is trying to rebuild the institutions that were broken down during the past 22 years. People are now free to speak their minds in the bus stations, at market, at schools, at workplaces. These were non-existent under Jammeh's regime, because people were fear. If you openly criticize the government, you risk being taken to jail. So a lot of Gambians went to jail for merely exercising their right to freedom of speech, to freedom of assemble. You cannot even openly support an opposition party in that country. But today, civil servants who were forced to be loyal to both the party and the government are now openly supporting political parties of their choice. For the past 2017, no journalist has been arrested, something unprecedented in the history of that country. Before, every month or every week, you hear cases of journalists being tortured, journalists being arrested, some sent to jail. But now the media is free to an extent that some people are in fact abusing those freedom. They go to radios and speak issues that they have no clue about it, just because we are free to express ourselves. I think that's a challenge that we are facing, and as someone who is a media freedom advocate, I am also advising or urging colleagues to be responsible in the way they do things, despite the fact that we have a democratic government. Another challenge that journalists are facing in the Gambia right at the moment is capacity building. We have a lot of journalists whose capacities are not built professionally. So that's a challenge, because a DJ is now turning to be a political analyst with no clue about what he is discussing, sitting on the airwave discussing issues that they have no clue about. That's a challenge that the media is facing. But as we move forward in this new democratic dispensation, I feel that the challenge of capacity building will soon become a thing of the past. We have seen the University of the Gambia for the first time offering journalism courses. And then we have a lot of radio stations. The new government also gave license to at least 3 new television stations to start broadcasting. Before, it was only one television, that's the Gambia Radio and Television Services. So I think the future for the media in New Gambia is bright if we work hard to, you know, achieve what we intend to achieve, that is to have total media freedom. You know, we still have challenges because there are people in that country that still have a very bad perception about the media. They feel that the media, you know, the media is not living up to their expectations. So, you know, it's not only the government, but we have non-state actors who does not like the work the media is doing. So that is one thing that we are working to, you know, to at least change the mindset of people.